What's up, guys? It's your boy Justin. Today we're reviewing Daredevil by Frank Miller and Klaus Janson, Volume 2. This is the second omnibus in the Frank Miller's Daredevil collection, which was printed in 3 volumes. Here's Volume 1, which I already did a review of, and Volume 3. So the comics here are from 1981 through 82, which collects Daredevil 173 through 184, written by Frank Miller, also drawn by Frank Miller with Klaus Janson as the inks, and he also helped out on the art. It was rated 18+. So yeah, the book, the art here in this book starts to look a lot more like the Frank Miller that we know, right? It starts to have that gritty. Like Sin City Batman Returns kind of look, where the first volume the art was more cleaner and streamlined. Here it's starting to look a little darker, right, and gritty, which was pretty cool. So yeah, what happens in this comic is that if you watch the Daredevil movie with Ben Affleck, then you'll start to see a lot of familiar stuff, right? You have this side story where, Elektra, who's working as an assassin in Europe, finds out that the clan of Ninja, are after Matt Murdock, and she goes back to America to help Matt Murdock. While she's there, right? Oh, also you have this cool issue where she teams up with the Gladiator, who's now kind of like a reformed criminal, right? So yeah, you got this cool issues where you have the Elektra versus the Hand, right? Great art by Frank Miller here, very sexy art. Though I don't. One critique I have about Frank Miller is I don't like how he draws katanas. His swords are pretty bad, right? Also, there's a subplot here where Foggy Nelson, Matt Murdock's partner, leaves the business because Matt Murdock keeps taking pro bono cases and not taking cases worth money, which eventually Foggy Nelson comes back, right? So yeah, this was cool. So what ends up happening is that Elektra ends up working as Kingpin's chief assassin because Bullseye's in jail, right? So also there's a subplot. There's a couple issues where Daredevil loses after an explosion in his office from the Hand trying to assassinate him and Nelson. Loses his radar, so now he's just a blind guy with hyper senses, and he goes to meet up with Stick to get trained on how to get his radar back, right? Which you get another retelling of his origin story, right? Also, lots of cameos by JJ from the Daily Bugle, because they're going. Ben Urich, who is the reporter that tried to dox Daredevil in the last volume, is now working with Daredevil to take down this corrupt mayor, who's this corrupt politician who's running for mayor for New York, right? And the Daily Bugle hires Nelson and Nelson and Murdock to represent them because they're getting sued, right? Yeah. Yeah, so you have lots of great art. Also, there's a cool issue where Nelson hires Power Man, Luke Cage, and Iron Fist to protect him, because he has mobsters after him, right? So that was a cool issue, right? So, but when the book gets very good, right? Well, also you have this whole issue dedicated to Ben Urich, the reporter, right? Who was played by Joey Pantoliano from that Daredevil movie, right? Who was on The Sopranos, right? So this issue was really good, man. It was super dark and gritty, reminded me of Sin City. It was very noir-esque, right? Though what sucks is you have this fake out where it looks like that Elektra killed Ben Urich and he survived, right? What's cool about this is you have this whole issue where Ben Urich and Daredevil finds out that Vanessa, which is Kingpin's wife, who was killed in the first volume, is actually alive, and she's living as a homeless lady, and you have this homeless conclave in the sewers where she's like the queen to this dude, right? And Daredevil has to go and rescue her, right? And so that's cool. This kind of reminded me of the one villain from the Dark Knight Returns comic book, right? The mutant, what was he called? The Mutant King or whatever. So this issue was great. Yeah. So Daredevil returns Vanessa to Kingpin. And Kingpin still wants to kill. Kingpin's after getting his wife back from Vanessa, has Elektra go out and kill Nelson, right? So here's my favorite issue in this omnibus, the Bullseye versus Elektra issue, where Bullseye's in prison, right? And Frank Castle, the Punisher, is also in prison, and Frank the Punisher goes to Bullseye and tells him, "Hey man, you should break out of jail and go kill your Elektra, because Kingpin replaced her as her chief assassin, right?" And he's like, "What the fuck? That piece of shit. Why are you telling me this?" Well, he tells him this because he's hoping that Elektra will kill him, or he'll kill Elektra, right? So yeah, what happens is Bullseye breaks out of prison, right, and figures out that Daredevil that Matt Murdock is actually Daredevil, and goes to fight Elektra. And here's where you have the the famous fight between Elektra and Bullseye, which Elektra at this point was super badass. You see her take on the hand Daredevil, right? And Bullseye in the last volume was shown to be kind of a wimp, so it was pretty unexpected that Bullseye would win, but he does. He kills Elektra, right? And then Matt Murdock loses his shit, goes out to find Bullseye and cripples him like in the movie, right? But also that Bullseye told Kingpin that, hey, Matt Murdock is Daredevil, but doesn't believe him. Probably should have believed him when Daredevil showed up to his place, asking him, hey, where Elektra is, even though Elektra's dead, right? So here you have more stories with Frank Castle, which I think if you're a Punisher fan, you're probably not going to like this graphic novel. Which is weird, because you would think Frank Miller would be great with Punisher, but he writes Punisher to be kind of unlikable here. Like, Punisher goes out, gets breaked out of jail by this CIA guy to wipe out some drug dealers, right? And he goes to shoot them. He goes to kill them all. One of them's a kid and gives up. And he's like, "This is war. I don't take prisoners." Kills him, and it finds out, oh, it's like a kid, right? So, like, Punisher kills this kid who was surrendering and kills him anyway, but didn't know he was a kid, right? So yeah, so like in the second half, like yeah, in the last third of this graphic novel, you have this story where like Daredevil and Punisher fight each other because they're both going after drug dealers who are dealing angel dust to kids, right? And Punisher wants to kill all these drug dealers, and Daredevil wants to arrest them. And there's this funny scene where like the Punisher goes to see Ben Urich and he's like, "Hey, tell me everything about the Punisher." The Punisher? You crazy, Matt, or just tired of living? It's like, "Hey, shut up! Don't tell everybody I'm fucking Daredevil, asshole." Yeah. So it's like I love this scene where Ben like tells him, "Daredevil, you're fucking crazy for going after Punisher," which where it's very different from the Netflix show where like Daredevil, like Punisher thinks Daredevil's a joke. Here, like Punisher's like, "Hey man, we should team up. There's no reason for us to fight." And he's like, "Motherfucker, you kill people," right? So you have this great action scene, right? Which I love this cover, by the way. No more Mr. Nice. So yeah, let's not spoil the rest of this issue. Yeah. Oh, I should mention there's this story where Daredevil represents this drug dealer because he thinks he didn't kill this guy that he had every motive to kill, but because his heart didn't beat weird, that Daredevil becomes his client and gets him off the murder rap. Turns out he actually did kill the guy, right? Which this pisses off Matt Murdock and he goes after him as Daredevil. Yeah, because it turns out if you have a pacemaker, you can get over Daredevil's lie detector. So what did I think about this book? I thought the art was fantastic. Yes, it's a little cartoony, but it's the way it's drawn to be like rough and gritty gives it like the cool gritty crime noir feel, right? The art, the backgrounds were great. Lots of cool like panels with shadows and everything, giving that noir kind of look. The action scenes are fantastic. Lots of panels of characters moving around, positioning, like cool big hits. If Frank Miller is good at anything when it comes to drawing, is like he's very good at like action scenes, man. Dynamic action scenes. Which a lot of people talk shit about his art, but if he's good at one thing, it's action scenes, man. Though, like, yeah, look at this, man. You can't blame Frank Miller for thinking, with art like this, for thinking he could make it as a director. Which his movie sucked, but it only sucked because he like too much CGI. Look at this art, man. It's fantastic. So yeah, the art's great. Um, the art's great. The writing is good. The writing's good though. Some of the dialogue was hit or miss, especially with Frank Miller. Like he, like sorry, not Frank Miller, Frank Castle. When he kept calling the kids child, get out of here, child. I think Frank Castle would have been more like a beat it kid kind of guy. But whatever. Though, like, yeah, it's weird because like it's funny how like Frank Miller you would think would love like a character like the Punisher, but he writes him to be like a psychopath here, like a social psychopath, right? The one problem I had with the writing is that there's a point where Matt Murdock represents this kid who's charged for the murder of this drug dealer, right? Who sold drugs to his kid's sister who died of an OD, and like he had like an automatic, right? And you find out the guy was killed by a rifle. Okay, there's a huge difference between a bullet from a handgun from a bullet from a rifle. So the ballistics people should have noticed, hey, this guy was killed with a gun from a rifle, not a pistol. So that should have gotten the kid off the murder, right? But I don't know, like, I'm pretty sure they had ballistics in like the 80s, right? So that's like a small critique, but overall, I think this volume was great, way better than the first volume, which Frank Miller didn't even like write that. Write the first half. He wrote like the second half, but yeah, this was leaps and bounds better, and I liked how they Bullseye as a character, just like in the first volume, he was kind of pathetic, but he came back with a fury in this volume and kicked ass. So, fantastic character work with this book, right? Though, like, one problem I have with Matt Murdock is that he is kind of a bleeding heart liberal, but that's kind of like his weakness, because, like, because he fell for, like, because he represented a dude like he knew was guilty of like being a criminal, but like thought like, oh, like this guy's not a murderer, right? It turns out he was a murderer, so like it kind of like it kind of like showed like, oh, like his bleeding heart liberal, like his naivete is kind of like a weakness, right? But overall, I love this book, and if I were to give this book a rating, 8 out of 10. If you're somebody who's like, man, like superhero comics suck, manga's way better, you need to read this, man. This is fantastic, top-notch stuff, and it's even by today's standards, it's fantastic, right? So I was thinking of reviewing Volume 3 next, but we're gonna do a poll, and I'll let you guys decide what our next review is going to be. So I'll keep it a surprise.